You might remember a time where you would be sitting around a campfire on a summer's night and would see any number of bats flying in the sky. And maybe you noticed that as summers passed, fewer bats were flying in the sky during your campfires. There is a reason for your bat friends not showing up to your campfire, and it's not that they did not receive the invitation. The little brown bat, one of Canada's most common bats, was deemed endangered in Nova Scotia in 2012 when their numbers dropped by 95%. What was significant around this time that caused such a drastic drop in the bats of Nova Scotia? Bats tend to be a vulnerable species due to their slow reproductive rates and choose to hibernate in caves or mine shafts, which can be obstructed, trapping bats, and when hibernating, choose to do so in large groups, where disease can be easily spread. Destructans, or the white nose syndrome, was first discovered in a bat hibernation site of New York in 2006. By 2010, it is believed to have entered Nova Scotia, and in 2011 it was confirmed to have traveled to Nova Scotia and infected local bats when discovered by St. Mary's University professor Hugh Broders. White nose syndrome affects bats during hibernation. Bats prepare for hibernation by storing energy before entering a hibernation site, where large numbers of bats come together. In Nova Scotia, there are 5 major hibernation sites. The Mercy Tobietic Institute of Nova Scotia collaborated with the Nova Scotia Department of Resources to create a program where the public are able to report bat sightings in Nova Scotia. And these reportings have helped discover areas where bat populations are dense and collect information about the habits of Nova Scotia bats. White nose syndrome attacks living bats in hibernation and starts as a white fungal growth on the hairless area of a bat, such as the nose, the wings, and the legs. Unlike similar fungal species that affect the blood vessels, white nose syndrome grows directly on the skin. It can spread rapidly amongst bats that are crowded together, sometimes by the thousands, during the winter to stay warm. When a bat is infected by white nose syndrome, they awaken from hibernation frequently, which causes them to use up fat stores that were meant to last the entire winter. Sometimes they will leave the cave in search of food and freeze to death. Many of those who stay in the cave will starve to death due to using up their energy stores. If the affected bat is able to survive the winter, the fungal growth on their wings can compromise flight, though once the bat is awake, the bat's immune system can potentially fight off the fungal infection. You may find yourself wondering, why does any of this matter? Why are bats important? Bats are a keystone species in Nova Scotia. This means that they help to shape their ecosystem. Bats help shape our ecosystem by acting as pollinators, helping to maintain biodiversity. Bats also act as pest control, as their diet consists of moths, mosquitoes, and insects that can cause crop damage in agriculture. It is easy to help this keystone species, and you can start in your own backyard. You may not be able to help the disease from spreading. However, you are able to help those bats that have not been affected. Some of the things you can do to help are building a bat box in your backyard. By housing a bat house, you are able to provide a safe space for female bats to raise their young. Planting a garden with flowers that will attract moths will provide a food source for bats. And while they are in your garden, they will likely help out with other pests you have. You can also include a light in your garden to attract insects. By reducing pesticide use, you are able to help bats by providing them food sources, as well as reduce the risk of the bat becoming poisoned. The Canadian Wildlife Foundation have found that introducing bats to agricultural lands is equally, if not more efficient, than pesticide use. You can volunteer to monitor a bat roost within Nova Scotia to help collect data about bat populations. In doing so, you choose a roost to monitor during the summer months and observe the bat activity happening for 2 sessions, for approximately 30 minutes to 1 hour after sunset. This volunteer data can be submitted to www.batconservation.ca. If you're able to make a bat-friendly area in your backyard, some of your bat friends may be back for your summer campfires.